Hi, everyone. You are
Carla.
I am Arlaana, and
We are Don't Mess with the Mommas.
Mommas, with our motto.
You are the protagonist of your life, not the victim of your destiny.
And today we're talking about a very interesting topic that I think relates to all of us, is wealth immaterial, which is a double meaning, of course. Do we look at material wealth? Do we look at the immaterial, and what's that about? So we're going to be talking about that, and what does it mean to really be wealthy? And this is really especially dear to my heart because I taught economics in high school for many years.
Yes.
And just as an aside, students who were seniors loved the budget project because they said it's the only thing that they've done in high school that really prepared them for real life. They had no idea how expensive it was to live on their own. That was very interesting. And another thing that I would always do with the students, and this kind of may lead into our discussion, will lead into our discussion, is I hold up a paper clip and I said, I bet I can get you to pay $1 billion for this paper clip. And they all look at me, how can you pay $1 billion for a paper clip?
Yeah.
And I say, what if this was the last paper clip that ever existed on Earth and you got to buy it? So it's what we put our value to, which is really interesting because everything has value. And one other thing before I turn it over to you is, often I think, why don't we value the immaterial more than the material? For example, say, I can pay you $1 billion to have a happy life, or I can pay you $1 billion to have good family relationships.
I wish that was so.
I wish that were so. That would be so great, as opposed to maybe a yacht or whatever that doesn't have much value. It has value because you have fun on it and it's beautiful, but what really is the treasure in life? So turning it over to you now, Carla, what is wealth? And give examples when you can.
Okay, I think wealth is subjective.
Yes.
It depends on personal feelings, preferences, taste, opinions, experiences, rather than facts.
Right.
So if you're always struggling to put food on the table, you're not living a comfortable life.
That's right.
And being wealthy to me is having a comfortable life, knowing that you've paid your bills, you have a little extra left over, you're not struggling for survival. You know, you're living, you're able to do things with your family, your friends. You're available to them to be able to help them if they need help. So, and every culture has a different idea of what wealth is.
Absolutely. Yes, you're so right. And here in this country, we just oftentimes just look at wealth in a very narrow way. So talking about what is, wealth, when you think about, if you have so much, and especially if you're young and have so much, that's not necessarily a good thing. It may seem like fortune, but not necessarily, because if you can have lobster dinners any night of the week, there's no challenge, right? But if you save up and you get excited, well, I'm going to have a lobster dinner for my anniversary or my birthday, it becomes exciting. If you don't have that much, you have to become creative with your money, right?
Yes.
You can't just, do whatever it is you want. And that becomes your golden memory. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, because you and I have many golden memories of how we had to struggle. We didn't have the financial means, but we had fortune.
Definitely.
So that fortune really changed everything,
Yes, it did.
So do you want me to give some examples?
Sure,
and
go
then
ahead.
I'll turn it over
Okay,
to you.
okay.
Yeah. So when my husband and I wanted to build a house, we didn't have any money in the bank. We had just moved to South Carolina from New York, but we found this perfect plot of land with this gorgeous tree, and we said we have to have it. Didn't know how we were going to have it, but we wanted it. And the down payment, of course, this is many years ago, the down payment to get the land was $5,000. We didn't have the $5,000. Now today, no problem at all, right? Because we've built up our fortune. But $5,000 was like 5 million or 5 billion to us. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yes.
So what happened is that we got this realtor who really trusted us, really liked us. We were teachers, and they respected us, had deep sense of trust. So they loaned us, the realtor loaned us the down payment. And she said, when we closed on the deal, she said it's the first time she's ever closed on a deal where the people didn't put up any money whatsoever, and we gave them we loaned them the money. Then we had to get a construction loan. We didn't have money for that. So the house had to appraise at 120% of the value of the home. It appraised for exactly that. So we didn't need any money at all, right? And then we didn't have a particularly good financial record, long story, but we were worried that we weren't going to get a mortgage. But interestingly enough, we had so much fortune from our Buddhist practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and giving to others, really encouraging others to the best of our ability, that we had a banker living across the street from us, and his girlfriend had these adorable 3 little dogs, and we used to play with those dogs. So she convinced him to give us the mortgage. So there we were, without any money at all, building a beautiful home that we designed on our own, and being able to sell it for at least double of what we paid for it. So that's an example of fortune versus wealth. Now, had we had the money right away, it wouldn't be such a fun experience. But that became such a golden memory because we had to struggle so much. That became a deep experience in our life, which we'll never forget. And it became thrilling and creative. We had to be so creative. So I know you have experience like that too.
That's nerve-wracking, but you got through all of it.
That's right.
My experience was going to school, and you talk about fortune. You never know how you're creating it, right? So my sister, she was working with jewelry. She wanted to make jewelry. So I was in college, art school, and they had a course on making jewelry. So I said, I'm going to send my sister. I paid her $250 or whatever the money was to send her. So I'm not thinking anything like future, how this is going to affect my future. But at the last semester, I was short $7,000. I couldn't graduate unless I paid that to the school. So my sister, seeing what I did for my younger sister, that's my older sister, she loaned me $7,000 so I could walk across that stage having paid the $7,000 and walking away with my degree. So, and I mean, it was crazy, the struggle I went through, because I didn't have any credit, and I had to, turn every branch, look under every tree, turn every rock. How was I going to do this? And I had come so far, I couldn't go back. It was just no way I could go back. Right. So, again, I was chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and my sister came through for me, and I was able to pay her back. So things you do, you never, when you do it for somebody else, you never know how it's going to come back into your life for something good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you also shared about that employer.
Oh, the employer. I think he ran a grocery store or a business, and he made sure that he gave his employees health care, vacations, and he paid them a decent salary. And what they did for him was they repaid him by buying him a car. And he was so appreciative of that because it meant that, he had done something good for them. Yes. Overwhelmingly. Yes. So, and I also wanted to bring up this thing about the 3 fates. All right, something I learned in college, that the 3 fates are giving, it's 3 women, okay? Sometimes they look like they're three old hags, but that's not true. The three fates that I know are all beautiful women, all right? So one woman is giving, the other woman is receiving, and the third woman keeps the circle going of giving and receiving, giving and receiving. And what we have today is not that.
Yes.
We have a lot of taking and not giving back.
Right.
So we have to, work that, bring that back to life.
I think that what you said is really so significant, and we get so much more feeling from giving, And is it okay to have wealth? Of course, absolutely. Why not? You can have plenty of wealth. But are you addicted to your wealth? Are you no longer the human being that you were before your wealth? Is it all about hunger? I have to have more and more and more. And that's all you strive for. That becomes who you are. You're moving away from your humanity and becoming this, I don't know what, the world of hunger. Now, would I love to have plenty of money because I could do so much good with that money, I would love to have a legacy in my life, have my name on a school because I built that school for kids to have a great experience now into perpetuity, for the future, or a hospital or whatever it is. I mean, how wonderful to be able to share that wealth. Of course, leave enough for yourself, have the things that you want, but then, create a legacy. And we talked about the three kinds of treasures in Buddhism and in life. When we talk about Buddhism, Buddhism is nothing different from life itself. It just means the dignity of life. So there are three kinds of treasures. There's the treasure of the storehouse. So yes, you do need enough money, absolutely. And what is enough, right?
Yeah.
What is enough? And there have been many studies on this, and they figured, that enough is like $80,000 a year or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but all right, so treasure of the storehouse, having enough so you can live a decent life.
Right.
Take care of your bills, etc. And then treasure of the body, we need to have health because no matter how much money you have, it's not going to prevent you
from being sick.
So that's really important. But the most important treasure, which lasts forever, is the treasure of the heart. What kind of human being you are and how much you can appreciate your life. That's the most important. And to give two examples, our founder who first chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo in the 13th century, Nichiren Daishonin, who, by the way, in those days he said women have to really lead the way. And in those days, 13th century feudal Japan, whoa, was that different, from what people believed in those days.
Right.
But he, in the worst conditions, because the government wanted to get rid of him because he was saying you could be happy in this lifetime. You don't have to wait till the next lifetime when you die. Right. Hello, nobody comes back to report on that one. So he said, I'm the happiest man in all Japan. Worst possible conditions. They threw him to this place called Sado Island, and there was he lived in a hut, and there were like the skeletons of people who had died. They just threw the bones of people who were dead. But he was realizing such a deep mission. He knew that his life was going to influence people, countless people, now into, thousands of years into the future.
Right.
And I love talking about, and I've talked about him before, Navalny, who was a Russian dissident. What a great human being he was. And when he was in the Arctic prison, the worst possible situations, he said he's in the 1% of the happiest people in the world, even though he knew he was going to die because the conditions were just horrific. And ultimately, he was poisoned. But he realized what a mission he had and that he would leave such a legacy. So I think, you could be rich in wealth but impoverished in spirit. I would much rather have a deep wealth of spirit. And the historical figures known, are not because they were wealthy necessarily, although some, yes, because they've done so much with their wealth, but mostly because they're humanity.
Yes.
So isn't that more important?
Yes.
Anything else you wanted to add?
I'm thinking you could have a lot of money, but we equate happiness with money.
Right.
Having lots of money. but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be happy.
Absolutely.
You can be absolutely miserable.
Absolutely. And we have an example when we had our second restaurant and we were looking for another investor. The guy who we were going to approach, and we lived in a fairly well-to-do area, and he was the richest guy on this island. And the day before we were about to ask if he would like to invest in our restaurant, he called his wife, who he found was having an affair, took a gun while on the phone and shot himself for her to hear. So much for all of that wealth. And again, not saying, and we don't want to poo-poo wealth, it's a great thing, yes, you should have, it's such a credit to your life for having accomplished so much in life if you've actually earned that and you've done so many things, where you're deserving of that wealth, but how you create value with that.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think, that's pretty much it. I think we're ready for our
encouraging words.
Encouraging words. We always end with encouraging words, and this is from our international president, who's passed away more than 3 years ago. But his encouraging words are applicable, just like we read encouraging words from 13th century, 14th century, whatever. It doesn't change. Human beings are human beings. So
true.
Here to hear our encouraging words from Daisaku Ikeda.
Okay, and I'm going to read this, because I want to quote him correctly. He says, "Eternal good fortune surpasses the wealth of even the world's richest people, which continues beyond a single lifetime. There is purpose-driven use of wealth, which is using our material means to support one's mission and contribute to the peace and happiness of others. And it's okay, through sincere prayer and action, earthly desires are transformed into enlightenment. And selfish wishes can evolve into determination to contribute to others. And lastly, life's true victors are those who succeed in elevating the state of life to the point where they can embrace all people with compassion and warmth, regardless of their material wealth."
I love that. I love that. And by the way, if you hear barking in the background, that's our dog saying she really likes to hear this stuff. She's our little pug Zoe, and we'll do an episode on her because she's had quite the experience. We call her the miracle pug. But I love that, what you had to say, and I think we'll wrap it up. And don't forget, we are Don't Mess with the Mommas, MOMMAS, with our motto: you are the protagonist of your life, not the victim of your destiny.
Right.
And please, 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 we would love to hear from you. We really want to connect with you. That's why we're doing this podcast. We just want to encourage as many people as possible to realize that they are in the driver's seat of their life. So you can write to us at mommas, MOMMAS podcast@gmail.com, and you can find us on YouTube and TikTok and
Spotify
and Instagram and wherever you view or listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much. Have a glorious day, and please be a wealthy person in your spirit. Treasure your life because you are the treasure.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.